Okay. Hi everyone, lovely to see you. I know lots of people here. In fact, I may know everyone here, barring our panel. But reflective practice. This is, I think, a really fun area. This is, I think, where a lot of engagement comes in terms of your learning. And who doesn't like to think about themselves, right? In my experience, everybody. So for the next half an hour whilst I'm chatting, I'd really encourage you to open your notebook or sketchnoting book or grab some coloured pens or just a normal pen. Have your own attempt at your own reflective writing for this unit with you, if you can, if you have it, because I want you to look at it now and see what you've done so far, because I'm going to encourage you to examine your own reflective writing and see what you can do to make it even better. And if you haven't started it yet, that's absolutely fine, because we can start with an ideas session. So you can start coming up with ideas with a bit of sketching, note-taking, to think about what you might write there. So it's an opportunity for you to think about yourself as an information professional at the beginning of your journey, and you know, where's your perspective from now? And that's going to be really interesting when you look back, I think, at the end of this journey, and you're like, gosh, look at my understanding of this profession, or myself, look at myself as an how I've grown and how I've changed. Okay, so I've titled this Reflective Practice Thinking About You. So that's sort of the way it is. Okay. So the first thing I want to mention is, what is reflective cognition? So what is the mind and the brain up to when you reflect? I've broken it down into three core areas: perception, imagination, and memory. So perception is really what happens, and why is that happening? Now, what happens is about observation. What am I doing? What are they doing? What's the context that I'm in? What kind of library am I working at? What kind of home life do I have? What kind of manager do I have? So when you're learning theories of leadership in 610, you might ask, what kind of leader am I working with, or manager am I working with? Try to categorize them. So when I say you're perceiving, you're trying to get to an understanding of the reality that you're in, and also an understanding of the perspective you have at the moment. So some of that reality might be your subjective emotional experience of your context right now. It's a descriptive experience that you're going to have when you do this kind of reflective practice, is actually just coming to terms with the you and the now, in the where and the when. Okay? Because if you don't have an honesty about yourself in your situation, then you can't do anything else to sort of improve it or change it. So this can often be a super private affair. And one of the things I realized I didn't write down anywhere was the art of reflection to yourself, or to one person that you trust, for example, through SMS or email, which isn't broadcast to the world. It's not a blog post. But it's where I might call it a confession, right? You say, look, I went for that job and I think I did it was okay, but I really flummoxed that, one question. I really should have had a better answer to that. And that could be your own truth of what happened that you're describing. So that's the first bit. Second bit is imagination. And this is, I've got two different angles here: what might happen and what should happen. Okay? So what might happen is the way the world could have been differently to the way it was. So you say, if I'd answered that question in this other way, it would have given me an opportunity to present myself as a more diverse kind of information operator, as opposed to the one answer I gave that made me seem like I only had one level of expertise. Okay, so it's about you imagining all the different ways you could conceive of that situation that would also make sense. And that might also give you the tools to think about what ought to be. So once you think, I could have done it all these different ways, what would have been the best way to answer that question, right? And that kind of reflection really empowers you for the next interview and the next thing. And given how much of our current environment is about, reinventing ourselves and change and trying and failing and standing up again and trying and failing and standing up again, you really want a good set of procedures and methods to get you past that failing bit, to lift yourself back up. And once you've done that imaginative exercise, then you want to remember, right? Because you don't want to forget all this wonderful reflective practice that you've just gone through. So what can you do to help yourself remember? What should I remember? But also, what should I forget okay? Because we don't want to remember everything that we did that was terrible. Oh, God. And someone on the Google Plus community today made a really interesting comment about how they can go to bed and then be sort of thinking over and over about things. That's too much reflection. So I want to distinguish between reflection and rumination, and the downward spiral of rumination, where you're like, I'm never going to become a liaison librarian. I've interviewed to become a liaison librarian 6 times and I'm still on a crappy contract. You know, what am I doing wrong? I'm a terrible person. I'm not meant to be here. And you go around in this horrible sort of experience. Now, that's not productive reflection. So knowing the difference between reflection that might kind of get you somewhere and reflection that might kind of make you feel bad and keep you in a bad space is important too. Because one of the reasons why people don't undertake reflective practice is they don't want to go there emotionally, right? You don't want to go back to a situation where you made a fool of yourself. You don't want to go back to a place where you failed. It makes you sad, okay? And you think, geez, it's a lot of effort to get my own mental state out of that sad place, so I don't want to go there. I don't want to go back to the pain. Thanks very much. Thanks. No, don't want to. Thanks. And that's a rational response, I think, when you don't have the tools, where you're not quite sure where to go. So I'm going to give you guys some sense of some of the tools that you might want to put into your reflective toolkit, I guess, to sort of help you manage these different stages. So, you know, it's good to have this sort of map that I've got on this slide around you somewhere in your note-taking right now, because I'd like you to consider how you're thinking about the material that I talk about, certainly, but definitely the panellists. So the panellists tonight are going to be a really good opportunity for you to reflect. And that ties in with the idea of active listening and good note-taking, which is what you want to build up your capacities in as a student, but really for the rest of your lives, which is always have a notebook of some kind around, listen to what the person's saying, and connect what they're saying to yourself and your position and what you know and what you'd like to know more about. Because if you situate what someone else's experience is through your own framework, you're much more likely to then make use of it in the future. Okay, any questions so far? Or concerns? Worries? Okay. Now, reflection is quite interesting because not only does it refer to objects like an email or a diary entry, but it also refers to an event, okay? So there's an ALIA meetup for new grads coming up. I saw it advertised. What's a great function of the ALIA meetup, right? You reflect. You'd be like, oh my God, I had that teacher. She's like so full on. She goes on and on and on, right? You can reflect upon your experience as a student. You can reflect upon your experiences as a professional with other people at an event. So events and objects are two different things. And objects can be physical or virtual. So whatever you do, it can be in any domain. And events can be regular or one-offs, or sporadic, or sudden, or very well planned. Think about yourself and your own planning for your own life to help you do the reflections you need to become a better you. Do you call up that really close friend and have a conversation about how you're feeling in the journey you're on right now? Have you made a friend or tried to make a connection with another person in your cohort in order to try and have conversations that are honest about where you're at and how you might do better? Like, I'm constantly needing to do better. Like, Ellie's got some secret tricks on Connect that I desperately need to get out of her soon, because I keep making the same mistake in my class. I'm like, I really just want to make that thing, but somehow a person is really helpful for me in a way that looking up the FAQs sometimes isn't. But that's me, right? We're all different. Some people love to read the manuals, so do it. But be aware of it. What do you use? What do you like? And are you facilitating what you use and what you like enough, right, to do better? If you are someone who likes reading instruction manuals, why haven't you been doing it? Right? Why not? You'll learn more that way if you actually do it and you like it. If you're someone who really likes someone to be with you whilst you learn a new technology, sort that out. There is no one who's going to reach down and save you from your own victimhood in this domain. Right? You need to be, as Dr. Phil would say, you need to be the hero, or someone in this situation needs to be a hero, right? You need to be a hero of your own reflective practice. Find the way to save yourself. Who lifts you up when you feel down? What lifts you up when you feel down? What solves your problem for you? And when you reflect, you might think about a situation in the past that was a big challenge and what methods you used that helped you get through it. So some people have been very honest on the Google Plus community and spoken of personal loss and grief and how their reflective practice actually helped them move through that grief. So that's a very welcome and honest experience that they've had, and I'm sure we've all had experiences that we've needed to move through some means. Okay, so a lot of reflective practice is probably going to be writing based. Certainly it is for the assessment in this unit. Writing can be many different types of things. You can do a sort of more traditional reflective diary where you sit down, sort of a diary for yourself. Advantages of a reflective diary: it's a good place to be honest. It's private. You can be honest, you can swear, you can curse, you can use bad language, you can spell badly, you can draw stupid diagrams, and nobody can see them or judge you for having them. They're a really great thing, and having one beside the bed is a good thing to have. You can put down your ruminating thoughts down into the diary before you go to bed to help you with insomnia. You can write your dreams down in a reflective diary, dreams and hopes and confusions and fears and solutions that you haven't tested yet. A gratitude journal. That can be a really good way to manage stress. There's quite good evidence to suggest that. That's where you write down at the end of the day, or any time during the day, about 3 things that you're grateful for in that day. It's a good way to activate the positive in your life and to, I find when I do it, it reminds me where the value is in my life, right? So instead of me focusing on people who are letting me down or making me feel like it's a challenge, I take at that moment to appreciate my husband made me a coffee this morning and it changed my world, and I really need to be grateful for him and make sure he gets the gratitude from me that he deserves. So it activates my gratitude and helps me with my relationships in general. Stories are good. Writing down stories, war stories, happy stories, sad stories, fiction stories. You know, write a librarian sci-fi story, right? Right, like, you know, library 2050, you know, what's your library like? Imagine you're running your own library and go through this imaginative exercise, okay? Like, what kind of library would you run in the year 2020? Perfect job comes up in the perfect location, of course, with the perfect building that's been architecturally designed to your specifications, with the sorts of chairs you like, with the sorts of barriers you like. For me, my perfect space has lots of little places which are quiet and somewhat dark and private. More of those. I find all this open stuff really overwhelming, and I sometimes go to a bathroom cubicle just to close a door and be like, no one can see me. Thank God. So that's my secret fantasy if someone gave me money, and I kept trying to push it on QT Library. I'm like, we should have those pods that they have at Google where you can shut yourself in and do a meditation for 15 minutes. How about one of those? Never happened. Everything went open, more and more open. So yeah, that's a really great way to do reflection, right? Write a story. And you can spend a very small amount of time on it, right? You know, 5 minutes. How much can I write about my fantasy library in 5 minutes? You'd be amazed. There's all kinds of weird stuff inside your subconscious just waiting to be allowed to escape, right? So facilitate the escape of the amazingness of you. Writing on the web, obviously social media and blogging, we're all obsessed with it here. But those are 2 options for sure. And as I realised, email is another way to do this, which is more private. And poetry. Poetry is a great technique. It's a really clever thing. Have you written a library poem yet? If not, why not? You know, it can be a limerick, can be abstract, can be a sonnet. Write a library sonnet. You know, compare thee to a summer day, right? And allow yourself to feel and to experience, because you might, yep. Microphone's on.
Just take it a bit further.
Sorry, everyone. So these are just some ideas. You know, if you find yourself bored at the idea of doing reflective practice, as you're supposed to do it, try doing it in a way that you're not supposed to do it. And then you'll find you can probably write from your poem some form of 500-word thing that would be suitable for the assessment. Or you can ask special permission for one kind of writing. If you feel like you've got a story of the 21st century library as your manager and you've got pods and you want to talk about it, you can always ask your lecturer or tutor or somebody, if this could count. They may say no, but you'll probably come up with a better reflection in virtue of having done it. So I'm going to talk fairly briefly, given I've got a small amount of time left, about the 4Rs model of reflective thinking. Now this is from SiteWrite, so if you're at home, you can copy and paste that URL, or you can go to Qt SiteWrite and then there's a link to reflective writing. There's a PDF that's just a one-page PDF. It's quite helpful, I found, if I just printed out and kept it next to me. Or you can obviously go to the web page. There's also extra resources there if you're interested. Now, what's good about, I think, this structure is it gives you something sort of formal to hook your reflections onto. If you're sort of not sure, well, where am I supposed to go with a good reflection? If you find you're sort of wandering around in the darkness, this can give you some structure, and then you can examine what you've done against these criteria. And so one of the tasks I recommend you do is to take your draft reflection, and if you've got it there in front of you, then grab, and I would advise different coloured pens or some form of coding system to underline or highlight each sentence according to whether it's about reporting, relating, reasoning, or reconstructing. So the idea is reporting is a little bit like the perception, okay? It's where you describe what is. Relating is where you relate to your experience and what is to other things that you know or theories you've heard about, other places, other contexts. Reasoning is when you consider and you might sort of pitch your own experience against the literature or against some authority. And then reconstruction or reconstructing is where you really position yourself for the future and try to come up with where you go from here. Yeah.
Just with the reasoning, like you said, consider what your experience is against the literature. So maybe I misunderstood this task, which was maybe to not really go and see what it's all about, but really what is your perception before you actually even do anything at all?
Absolutely fair. And what you'll find is that every individual unit and every individual task in a unit will probably require you to do some slight modification on this structure. So I'm giving you this structure because you can still do reasoning without going to the literature. But I'm mentioning it because you'll find that it's one technique of doing good reflections, and it is called upon when you write an essay, is that you will want to get to that stage where you're reasoning about material, and then you might say, well, I wonder what the experts have said about this idea that I've got. And you might be curious yourself, because, hey, I don't know a librarian or a librarianship student who doesn't have a thirst for knowledge, and if they've got some cool, groovy idea like, is it really good to isolate people into pods in the library? I'd be like, I wonder what kind of research has been done on that, and would like to furnish their ideas with better evidence. So it's about that kind of capacity, and then you kind of think, okay, how do I then implement or actually make that happen in the world? But it was a really good question. So in summary, reporting and responding, so these are the four elements: reporting and responding to a critical issue or experience, relating this issue or experience to your own knowledge in this field, reasoning about causes and effects of this issue or experience according to the relevant theories or literature. Now that would be from your own memory in this case, right? So you've all got experiences in the world, so draw on them. And other similarities or differences with other experiences you've had, and then reconstructing your thinking to plan new ways to approach the issue or engage in similar experiences in the future. Okay? That's literally taken from the SiteWrite reflective writing webpage for consistency of message. As I said, this is a great structure to try and see how it works for you, because there's plenty of latitude with reflective practice, but you may find if you look, this is why I say you should code your draft. Code your draft, and if, for example, green is your description or your reporting or even responding, if that's taking up 50% or more of what you've written, then your reflection's not going deep enough. So see how much you've really done. These last two are arguably where the most value is going to come for you in reflection. And you can't get there until you've done the first lot. So I really encourage you to have a look at what you've done so far. It'll be fine for a first draft, but I know everyone here can do better. So bring some more thinking to bear on it. And it'll just be great for you. You will get so much more out of reflective practice by allowing yourself to go through some iterative practice with it. Okay. So I've only talked about writing, but I really want to bring art into the equation. Art is a really wonderful way to be a reflective practitioner, and you can do it in any way you enjoy doing art. So visual art, sculpture, painting, drawing, lino cut, pottery. I don't know if that counts as visual art. I guess that's sculpture. Dance, wonderful. You know, there's a PhD dance competition where you're encouraged to dance your PhD thesis. It's really amazing. It's a competition, and you can watch the YouTubes of it every year, and it's fantastic. And you learn so much about things in science that you have no idea about. It's like pretending to be a molecule that's got a virus or something, like, you know. And then the cure comes in and they're like, whee! If you're so inclined to dance, try dancing your frustrations out. There's all kinds of great techniques in this practice called NLP, which has a bad name, Neuro-Linguistic Programming. It makes it sound, well, it's very 70s. But they have this really great physical way to reflect. And you have your first experience in the position you're in, and you think about the situation you're in, and then you step back. And you physically step back one step, and then you think, well, what's behind that experience that I had? What's behind my emotions and whatever? And then you step back again, and then you do it again. Well, what's behind that? Why is that the case? And then you do it a fourth time. By literally physically stepping backwards through your thoughts, you can unlock the subconscious that's milling around beneath that wonderful analytic brain of yours that may have something to say. Design something. So this future library that you might be writing about, well, what kind of design would you use for the logo? You know, would you be an Art Deco person? Do you like Korean New? If you like fonts, if you like stationery fonts, you know, if you like the idea of badges and stamps, rubber stamps and icons and imagery, if part of your attraction to the library is a kind of cohesive style, then design it. Do it. Imagine you've been paid to design a library. I remember our branch library manager, Richard, at QT, Kelvin Grove, he spent, I don't know, a year or two designing the Kelvin Grove library, and he was always walking around with, you know, swatches of fabric and textures, and it was a huge amount of thought that went into colour coding every floor of that library to try and improve everyone's experience of information. It's not trivial, actually. So, you know, allow yourself to be there, because you will find yourself in jobs where that is a skill that's required. You know? Photography is great, very useful in so many ways to visually communicate with people. So allow yourself to do art. I can see you laughing, Kate Davis. Multimedia. So look, this is a bit of a cheeky stab at multimedia. All I mean here is that, look, words, pictures, they come together, okay? You know, scrapbooking, you can use scrapbooking for memories or for events. You can do videos, you can do fiction, history, documentary. You can blog, use social media, have a hub, an information hub. Create an object that's an album or a talisman, right? Talismans are great. Have a vision for yourself in the future. Make a talisman that is you in the future, right? Represent yourself using crystals or bits of metal or leather, or, you know, come up with your own arcane symbology, runes, like get a piece of clay and put your fantasy job in the runes in the clay and wear it around your neck and be like, haha, you do not understand my runic script, haha, you know? I mean, I remember one dorky moment, I got something engraved in runes, but I translated the words into Latin first, right? So that even if you like could do the runes, you wouldn't know the Latin. It was like my, I'm a genius kind of moment. So if you sort of like codes and cryptography, and you find the idea of a mark record quite exciting because it's secret knowledge, enable that secret knowledge for yourself, because it will make you feel good inside, and you'll walk around as though you're a little magician. Craft, knitting, cross-stitch, jewellery. So I posted a cross-stitch I did up on the community, partly because I think visual is great on social media, and who wants to just read words all the time? But also as a demonstration of how we often behave in reflective ways as our pastime, as our hobby. And that's quite interesting, that that's a pleasurable activity we often undertake. So when people are knitting a little animal for a kid, and they're reflecting on this new creature that's about to be born that's going to be special. Oh my God, I'm going to have to cry. Knitting can be very powerful. There are many craft practices that can be very powerful. Yeah. No, sure.
My sister has a fairly stressful job as a pharmacist, and she does like a lot of crochet, and she's made some really cute little knitted animals. She actually made us a slug and a snail, and they are kind of pride of place on our little kitchen counter. And things like that can be really good. They make you happy. Yeah.
They make you happy, and they can make you believe in yourself too, right? When the world's getting you down, when you didn't get that job, you come home, you see that crocheted snail, and you say, "We're going to make it." You don't know why, really. I mean, I don't know why. I don't know why it works, but it can. It can for some people. Not everyone, but for some.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. I think I've got a mic. You can keep it around. It's okay. We're okay. Yeah, I know 1 minute, right? I'm almost done. So physical, lots of stuff here, but interior design, garden, making paths, adornment, your clothes, your bags, your shoes, jewellery. You can make something, make a contraption, or try to replicate something, right? Or make a whole new creation, or tinker with something, fix something, invent something, okay? People are always getting asked to tinker with systems and information. We're always trying to plug some horrific new system to an old horrific system and trying to make them speak with one another. So the more you tinker with physical stuff in the world, then the more likely you'll come up with a really nice analogy or metaphor that could help everybody in the room understand how you might bring two systems together. So don't feel they're disconnected, because they empower you with the ability to overcome obstacles that might seem extremely abstract. And events. So I mentioned right at the start that there's objects and there's events. So think about rituals that you might have in your life, maybe spiritual rituals, but also habitual rituals. So anyone who's tried to go to the gym as a goal, and you say, I want to try and go 3 times a week, then that becomes a habit you're trying to foster. So reflective practice can become a habit you're trying to foster. So what is that habit that you're going to try and implement in your life to become better? Social events. This I mentioned briefly before. Things like ALIA get-togethers are great with your community or friends or family to reflect with about the things that are important in your life. As you justify or explain your library of the future to your partner or your son or your daughter, you may find that they ask wonderful questions that make you think, yes, of course I don't want a sleeping pod in the library. What was I thinking? Can that idea? Bad decision, okay? And spontaneous events. Go for adventures and new experiences. Some of the most pleasant experiences I've heard of is librarians going to other libraries and snooping. Okay, the big library snoop is a really fun thing, and they're like, "Woo!" when they send back pictures, and they're like, "Look what Melbourne University is doing with their blah blah blah," and then they go, "Hee hee hee!" They have a ticketing system that makes it look like a Subway sandwich shop. Hee hee hee. So have adventures and new experiences. They will make you see the world a different way, and you'll have a great amount of fun in your journey. So thank you, and have a great week, and have a great semester and a great degree.
Very quickly,